Hey, welcome to this shortwave radio channel, and this is my review of the Sangean ATS-909X AM/FM shortwave receiver. And this is a radio that has been redesigned. It used to be the original ATS-909. It was also known as the Radio Shack DX398, and I do have the original, and this, of course, is the upgraded version. So it's a nice big radio. That's the first thing that is interesting. It's a bigger than normal, shortwave receiver, and you can just compare the size. If I take the XH Data, which is one of the popular models today, you'll immediately see how it's bigger than an XH Data that is a very small radio compared to it, honestly. So it's a little heavier than normal, so it might not be the best for travel purposes. So it has a lot of features. I mean, it's got this page system and one of the really beautiful displays here with the page system where you can program in not only the station with the frequency, but the station name and alphanumeric. So you could, just go here and if I want, I could like change USA here to WHRI or whatever, because it's the frequency of WHRI usually. Very, very big, nice frequency and panel. Actually, the LCD display is very beautiful, and the backlight is very nice. It's really an improvement. That is a big improvement compared to the original ATS-909. The 909X is, like I said, a long wave, medium wave, or AM radio, shortwave receiver, and FM. It's a general coverage receiver, so it covers up to 30 megahertz and has single sideband capability. Frequency entry by a keypad here, and it has, of course, the memory system with the pages as you tune around. So it's really a nice little receiver, honestly. One of the things that's nice that a lot of people would like is if you listen in, there's no soft mute. So there's no muting when you're tuning around, and that is something that a lot of you out there like. A lot of modern day receivers are actually muting when you're tuning around, and that is sometimes unpleasant when searching for stations. It has also a lot of little feed connectors here on the side. You have, of course, the external antenna connection. You have a auxiliary in, and you have standby and line out. If you have an old, those old cassette tapes that could be controlled, well, this can control and actually have a timer to control programming that you want to listen to at a specific time. Headphone jacks, and of course here is the little, this is kind of the RF gain, but it's kind of weird the way that it's done, because the RF gain is kind of, there's no stop to it, basically. It's kind of weird. And you have a power jack here with a power adapter that is included by Sangean in the box to power it, but you can power it with 4 AA batteries. And, battery life is actually pretty good on it. Sorry, guys. So in the front panel, nice layout, keypad. You have the different modes here on the left side. You have RDS capability, so if you put your radio on FM mode, you will immediately see that the RDS feature turns on, and it gives you all the details of RDS info of the different stations you're tuning around. So let's say that I'm gonna tune here 88.5 on the CBC. Well, and once 88.5 in here, when our RDS capability actually kicks in, you see that the information, the CBC Radio 1 info, is actually showing here for RDS capabilities. So that's nice if you have weather and all sorts of information, song names when they're playing songs and so on. This is, of course, always a welcome feature. Nice little feature that not all radios have. It has also a very nice tuning button here. Very nice the way that it's actually designed. I kind of like it. The steps, so you can change the tuning steps when you're tuning around. So here, if I press step, it displays on the here that it's either fast or slow. Fast is typically 5 kilohertz steps. Slow is 1 kilohertz steps, and it's even slower in single sideband. It actually tunes in 40 hertz steps to make single sideband capability even easier to tune in. Separate upper lower sideband, that also something that is interesting. So when you press the sideband button, displays at the top, lower sideband or upper sideband, and back to AM. The 40 hertz steps is a little annoying for some. I've seen some comments. Personally, I don't really mind that much, but I understand what the people mean is that if you tune a single sideband signal on it, because it's 40 hertz steps, 40 hertz is a little big. So sometimes you don't zero in on the voice. It sounds just a little bit off because you can't tune in precisely enough. But honestly, it's good enough for pretty much anything you're going to listen to anyways. The, of course, power button and light button here. Light stays on when you use a power adapter, but not when you use batteries. Speaker on the upper left side here, one of the biggest drawbacks of the original 909 was the fact that the speaker would actually have problems after a while, and actually my original one does have a broken speaker that would need to be changed. They've of course changed that here. The sound quality is a little harsh on shortwave sometimes, and I wish they would have improved on that. But overall, it's still not too bad. You've got, of course, some buttons on the right side of the radio to have the different narrow filters and wide filters, and also some audio filters, depending on if you're listening to music or news or so on, that you can tweak for sure on this radio. So it's a pretty big, heavy radio, like I said, in general, but it's nice. Now, how about its performance? Here's the thing. The performance of this radio depends on how you're going to use it, actually. On the telescopic whip that is with the radio, that's where the performance isn't that great. The telescopic whip gives you subpar performance. And immediately if you tune in with a portable that you actually use with a whip, you'll notice that almost any radio that they'll use will actually beat and outperform the Sangean 909X. It is deaf on its telescopic. Now, interesting, because by reading a lot on it, I actually learned that the problem with that is a mismatch between the antenna and the circuit board. And that means that mismatch makes you lose some of the signal. And of course, one of the things that you taught is, well, when you upgrade a radio, you should have upgraded that. Well, they didn't. So it's the same deafness as the original. But that said, the radio itself is not deaf, and it's actually sensitive. It is when you start using an outboard antenna into the antenna connector here. When you use an AM external antenna, you start seeing really good performance off of this radio. And that's where it shines, and that's where it becomes an amazing performer. So that is one of the things you need to use as an accessory. Absolutely need to have an outboard antenna on this thing if you want this to really, really shine. The performance on FM is actually quite good. I'm actually easily able to receive some of the stations that I like to receive, like the VPR station on a 107.9. Really comes in well. The performance on medium wave seems to be quite good with the internal ferrite, as I've tested. I'm going to do more testing, and we'll actually have videos comparing this radio with others. I haven't done them yet, And you guys will see that actually as time goes by. The performance on shortwave, like I said, becomes amazingly good when you actually use a external antenna, and that's how you need to use this radio in order to have best performance. It is a little sad that it doesn't actually work that well on the telescopic. I mean, it is an expensive radio, and that should have been fixed, honestly. My verdict is that it's a pretty good radio. It's very beautiful. This is probably one of the most beautiful portables you will have. But it's, unfortunately, if I would have to, tell you, well, should I buy this or, no. You know what? Get yourself an XH Data, the 808. You'll have better performance of the telescopic, and you know what? It's much less expensive. You got to look at the price point versus performance, and that's where it's unfortunately not what it should be. It is a nice radio, and anybody that has it, if you're using an outboard antenna, you probably love using this radio, and I do love using it, and I will use it for sure. But for the price that it costs, you got some better options out there, and one that I'm looking at right now and that I got today, this little Skywave SSB. You look at these and you're like, yeah, they're kind of light years ahead of the Sangean ATS-909X in performance, at least on telescopic. But then again, there's a lot of little things in here that are kind of cool. One surprise that I had is that this radio is actually an analog PLL radio on single sideband. But when you use it in AM mode on shortwave, it is actually a digital signal processor. So it's a DSP receiver, actually. So they upgraded that because the original ATS-909 is not a DSP-based radio. So it's kind of interesting to see that they kind of tweaked that and changed the circuit for a DSP. And it sounded DSP. When I started tuning it the first few days, that I had it, I had that distinct, DSP gives a very unique sound when tuning around signals. And I had detected by ear that it sounded DSP, which kind of surprised me because I didn't think that this radio was actually DSP on AM mode. But overall, it's a nice radio, and I'm happy to have it. And I want to thank once again Kevin J. Apollo for sending me these. It is a very nice radio that will be and have a very good place in my collection, and will be used regularly, that is for sure, and including the summer and Perry Island, the expeditions. And so look for a lot of tests coming up, comparing this radio with the XH Data, also comparing it with the Texan PL680. A lot of these radios you guys want me to test against each other, so we'll have these videos, and they're coming up pretty soon. I might try to do a few today. There's a live show tonight, so it's a little complicated, but I will have these videos coming up. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up. And this was the review of the Sangean ATS-909X portable long wave, medium wave, FM shortwave receiver.